In 2024, I attended Gamma Expo, a trade show for game publishers, manufacturers, retailers, designers, media people, licensors, anyone who has a business connection with the game industry. It's not open to the public. It's all about going there, in my case, to see new and upcoming games, but other people are trying to license games from one country to another, or just make a deal, talk with retailers about carrying things, and so on. There's all sorts of stuff that goes on at Gamma. I'm just looking for new and upcoming games. I talked with a lot of people, including a creator publisher who showed me 2 prototypes of things coming in 2025, and now those games are about to hit the market. So I thought I'd talk about them in their final form. That person is Jacob Jaskov. He used to run Hush Hush Projects, which was the original publisher of Fog of Love, his design. That game is now available through Floodgate Games. Jacob took some time off from the industry. He now has a new publishing company called Uloomi. Very fun name, Uloomi. It's good to say. And the games coming out are The Vibe and Our Secret Society. So I thought I'd give you overviews of each of them. Maybe try to figure out how to classify them the right way. They're both party games, but Jacob and I had a really nice talk about classification of games and how sometimes it's very limiting. Like, party game often brings a particular picture to mind, but there's a lot of variety in party games and how they feel. So let me show you what these party games are and then talk about them. The Vibe is a game for 2 to 6 players by Jacob Jaskov, although you could play with more people if you can fit people around the table who can look at what you're doing. You have the rules inside the box because they're fairly straightforward. You have a deck of cards with art on one side and words on the other. You have the rules for the advanced game in the bottom of the box here. On a turn, you are going to lay out 5 pictures. Trying to make sure you can see them all here. And flip over 5 cards to lay out 5 words. The player who is the vibe for the round is going to pick one of these 5 words and then arrange these images in order from least to most, however they think of it. So if I'm the vibe, you see the images here, and then I pick them up. I'm going to arrange them like so, like so, like so. Okay. From least to most. Okay. So least to most. Normally you put them all in a straight line. You think of it like a number line going from low to high as you go left to right, but I want to fit everything on the camera here. There we go. We have 4 things in a row. Least to most. Which of these 5 words best matches this arrangement of these images? It's up to you to figure out. As the vibe, I say nothing. You were part of the team of mind readers, everyone else at the table, who is just trying to figure out what I'm communicating. The vibe is a communication game, or you might think of it as a connection game where we are trying to think along the same lines. You may not agree with me, but you're trying to figure out what I'm saying or what I have in mind as I'm looking at these pictures. So you may look at this, you're like, okay, determination. What's this guy doing? This one's actually called the love letter. They got all the names, the artist, the year of creation on the back. Determination. Babies? These babies with adult faces, as was the habit long ago. Did they think, like, would that be the second thing that you would put for determination? I don't know, but maybe you would. But you're trying to figure out, most to least, for all of these, how does it work? And if you get it correct, great. Keep going. We're going to play another round. We'll take the word cards and we'll flip them over. Now we'll have those images. The next person around the table will be the vibe. Everyone else will be mind readers. We'll flip over the cards we had previously. And there we go. New images, new words. Now, as the vibe, you are trying to make a connection. You're not trying to trick people. You want to arrange the images in a way that they can figure out what you're doing. So you want to choose something that's going to work. You look at the cards here. You may be like, that looks curiosity. Is curiosity possible? Would I be able to communicate curiosity through these 5 images? Or honor? That maybe not. You've got this person being poked. Sort of a fight. Someone painting. Does that work with honor with this skull face? Maybe honor isn't what I want to do. So you were going to pick a word to try to help people, in addition to you laying out the cards in a way that's going to communicate something to them. And hopefully they'll read it and you'll make that connection. You'll get it correct. If you guess correctly 3 times in a row, you win the game. And that's it. That's it for the game. The advanced rules here, you would lay out, after the vibe looks at the words, you look at the cards and you lay them out instead this way. They have to go in this plus. I've actually chosen 2 words, which I didn't. I'm just arranging these somewhat randomly. And one of them is going least to most, and one is going least to most. Which 2 words did I choose to go with these arrangements? There's much less information, so it could be much harder to do. But of course, if a card really doesn't fit one particular word, maybe that's ideal for this other line. Figure everything out. That's the game. I played the vibe a few times on the prototype and the published version, and it does what Jacob wants it to do. It has people make a connection with one another and try to figure out how they think. The game elements are so minimal, they kind of disappear, and instead, it's all about what's going up here above the table. I think that's what he's trying to get at with these designs, where the rules are simple, the concept's simple, all that gets stripped away, and then it's just the interaction with your fellow players. You're trying to make that connection, decipher what they think, maybe argue about the images sometimes. Typically when you reveal, if you get it correct, you'll be like, yes, I was looking, felt like the least honorable because some detail here, and then this was a little bit more between the 2 of them, and so on. If you get it wrong, it's even more discussion. How did you think this was mystery? This seemed like I knew very clearly what this was. And the other person is like, well, but you look in the background. And so it's all about this idea of how people perceive things and the stories they create around what they perceive, what they see. Because, of course, even with the same image, people don't see the same thing. And that's the nature of the game, is trying to make that connection between people and understand how different people see the world. So it does wonderfully what it's trying to do, make that connection between people. The one aspect I don't like about the game is that there is no losing condition. There's no failure mode. The rules say if you get 3 correct in a row, you win the game. If you miss one, start over, which means you could just keep going until eventually you get 3 correct in a row and you win the game. I want something a little bit more where I have some sort of pressure or some tension that I'm working against. I figure if we lose 3 times, then we have lost. So if we win, lose, now we're on the hook and we have to get 3 in a row at that point. I want some sort of endpoint to things going on. Although others I played with don't care one way or another. It's an activity. It's not a game. It is a game in the way it's published, but what you're doing is more of an activity where you've got these structured elements that are letting you connect with people. And lots of them are super abstract. Envy, bravery. I mean, you can imagine how you're doing this. It seems very straightforward. It's so simple. It's one of those games that you're like, oh yeah, of course, anyone could do this. There have been other games along this line where you're trying to decipher something like this, but this is just boiled down to as simple as you can get, where you're trying to catch the vibe. Okay, so that's coming out March 2025. Jacob had copies for sale at Spielessen 24. Few copies available there, so it's been out a little bit. And it works great with casual game players, people who are not super serious. It's just people you're gathering with for dinner or whatever. You bring out this thing, you're like, hey, let's play a game, because you explain it in a minute and you get going. It's clear immediately what you're trying to do. It overcomes all those hurdles that you mostly have with games where the rules trip you up and people have to figure out what they're doing. In this case, so straightforward, that just falls away. What word do these cards represent in order? You be the first vibe. If you know the game, you're the vibe first, so you can just do it from the beginning and set the tone for how everything's going. It works. So let's talk now about Our Secret Society. Our Secret Society is a game for 3 to 6 players by Kaspar Lapp, best known for Magic Maze and That's Not a Hat. To play, open the box, read the rules if you don't know them already, put this card down, set this rules card aside, and give each player 3 cards. You're set to begin. All of the cards are rule cards that could apply to Our Secret Society. And yes, I mean Our Secret Society because all of the players are members of it. We are going to take turns putting rules into play, and we must adhere to all of those rules or get kicked out. And eventually only one person is left, and they win. So, as the first player, I look at my 3 cards, I decide which one I want to play, I say the rule to everyone, adhering to the rule, and then that rule will go into play, and then everyone must adhere to it from then on, along with whatever rule they're introducing. So, shh. In Our Secret Society, the speaker always begins by hushing. Then, put it into play. The game includes this organization card that is on the back of the first rule card that helps you determine which rules come into play when. There's a little symbol on the card. It goes with the begin with. So before the speaker begins to read their new rule, they want to make sure they're doing all of the begin with things. When they finish, end with. The crowd may have to do something depending on the rule. And then there's some ongoing rules that just affect you all the time. So I then draw a card. Next person goes. Shh. In Our Secret Society, the speaker always ends with, but you already knew that. But you already knew that. Shh. In Our Secret Society, we always talk fast, but you already knew that. Shh. In Our Secret Society, we always switch the first 2 words after saying society, but you already knew that. In Our Secret Society, speaker that always ends with, and that's why we're great. And that's why we're great. But you already knew that. That's the second end with rule that's going into play, and you can say those in either order. You just have to be sure to say them both. Shh. In Our Secret Society, speaker that always knocks on the last word. But you already knew that. And that's why we're great. In Our Secret Society, always we lift our nose while talking. But you already knew that. That's why we're great. Shh. In Our Secret Society, crowd that responds by drinking from an invisible cup. But you already knew that. That's why we're great. Shh. Good news, everyone. In Our Secret Society, speaker that always begins with good news, everyone. And that's why we're great. But you already knew that. Except I did not lift my nose while saying that, and therefore I am out, and my rule does not go into play. Clearly, I do not belong to this society, so I no longer get to set the rules for it. Everyone else continues playing. Eventually, there's only one person left. The society consists of them. The cheese stands alone. It's just them. They are the only person good enough to be part of that secret society. That's it. And they win. As the box says, this is an absurdly silly party game. This falls in the school of nonsense game, in which you are doing silly things, looking like a fool, and everyone loves it. You have to be in the right spirit for the game. And I've played a number of party games in which you're supposed to do stupid things, and I do not want to participate because it doesn't feel right for me. This one hits me just right. This one is, I'm not doing embarrassing things, because I don't care about lifting my nose or talking from half your mouth, or you got to keep your thumb in your ear, or whatever it is you're doing. I'm okay with that. Some other games just don't hit me well, but this one goes over great. Works with a large group of people. And like the vibe, you teach it in a minute. You can teach it by being the first person to put a rule into play. If you know the game, you set the standard for what people are doing. You have to adhere to the rule as you give it, and make sure everyone else is giving the rule. Maybe you give everyone a little fudge factor the first time around the table, get them going, and then it escalates from there. And I haven't seen it too far go beyond 8, 9 cards. It's a little hard. Once you get up there, you got to get everything in the right order. And of course, it depends upon the rules that come out, because if you get a whole bunch of ends with, as we did here, I had 3 ends with, and you kind of get used to that rhythm of it, and other people follow that rhythm. But not all of them work that same way. We had one where you had to pass a ball to the next player. I had one where you had to row the entire time, but you're also speaking into an invisible microphone. So lots of dumb stuff, but good dumb stuff that is fun. So now you know our secret society, due out, I believe, April 2025, following the vibe. And I think Jacob Jaskov has done exactly what he wanted with Uloomi. It's a fun to say name with fun games that take a minute to learn and leave you with more than just the idea that you played a game. Because as with the vibe, our secret society is played above the table. It's all played with the other people. You are watching what they're doing. Sometimes you're participating as well, depending on which rule cards come up. And it's great because you want to see them perform. You end up wanting to perform well for other people. And the rule cards set the standard, determine what's going to happen. So there you go. 2 games that, I mean, aren't much in terms of innovation, because innovation is innovation, right? Okay. But there's not really anything new here, and yet they work extremely well for what they're trying to do. So good for them. They've figured out, they've distilled the essence of the communication game, the connection game, and the nonsense game, and they give it to you pure.